The iPhone 16e aims to give most of the iPhone 16 experience for less, but what are you actually missing? That's what I aim to discover in today's Day in the Life, where I'll be putting the top model against the lowest model to see if the differences actually make an impact in day-to-day usage. It's currently 9:20, our battery percentage is at 100%. Let's get into this Day in the Life. This video is brought to you by ESR. Not all wireless chargers are created equal. Most overheat your phone, slowing down charging and damaging battery health over time. That's where the ESR 3-in-1 MagSafe charger comes in. With 15-watt G2 fast charging, it fully charges an iPhone 16 Pro in just 1 hour and 51 minutes. Way faster than other G2 chargers. Plus, ESR's CryoBoost cooling technology keeps your phone from overheating and extending battery lifespan. It also charges your Apple Watch up to 4 times faster than standard chargers and is future-proof with full G2 and Apple certification. Upgrade your charging setup today. Check it out at the link in the description. In this Day in the Life, I'll be putting both phones through their paces. I'll be comparing the display, performance, cameras, features, and the battery life. Both phones have SIM cards and are at 100% battery health. I'll be using both phones at the same time where I can to ensure a fair battery performance comparison. Okay, so it's now currently 12:05. Battery percentage on the 16 Pro is at 85% and on the 16e is at 90%. But let's talk about the displays on both of these phones because they're quite different in a lot of ways. So starting off with the basics, the iPhone 16 Pro has the bigger display at 6.3 inches, whereas the iPhone 16e has a slightly smaller display at 6.1 inches. The biggest difference that you will notice straight away is that the iPhone 16e looks a lot more older, having the exact same display as the iPhone 14 from a couple years ago. Whereas the newer iPhone 16 Pro has a dynamic island, much more slimmer bezels, and looks more modern overall. Both phones do use OLED panels, so you do get a great contrast and great colors. But the second biggest difference that you'll see between the two phones is actually in the brightness. The iPhone 16 Pro has a much brighter display that is very noticeable, especially when you're outside. Even under direct sunlight, you can still view the display pretty easily, whereas the iPhone 16e does struggle quite a lot in outdoor scenarios, so you can definitely see there's a big difference in terms of the brightness. And the third biggest difference you'll see is in the refresh rate. The iPhone 16 Pro has LTPO technology, so that means it can dynamically refresh between 1 to 120 Hz, which basically means that the iPhone 16 Pro's display looks a lot more smoother, a lot more fluid, and basically looks better on the eyes. Whereas the iPhone 16e is locked at a 60 Hz refresh rate, so it makes things look a little bit more static and a little less smooth. So overall, the displays between the two are very different, and the iPhone 16 Pro's display is much more modern and looks much better in 2025. So the iPhone 16 Pro's display gets an A grade, whereas the iPhone 16e's display gets a B minus. Alright, that's it for the display. Let's keep going on with this Day in the Life. Okay, so now it's 2 o'clock and the battery percentage on the 16 Pro is at 78%, and on the iPhone 16e it is now at 85%. Now let's talk about the cameras and do a little comparison between the 16e and the 16 Pro. They have very different cameras, but let's take a look at them. I have my friend Haru here. We're gonna take a few photos. Looking at the 16e, we have one main 48 megapixel sensor and a 12 megapixel selfie. The 16 Pro, on the other hand, is equipped with a 48 megapixel sensor, but a more larger and improved version of the 16e's one. It also comes with a 48 megapixel ultra-wide sensor and a 12 megapixel telephoto lens, along with a 12 megapixel selfie. Starting off with the main cameras, the 16e has some nice colors, dynamic range, and skin tones. Sharpness is on point with great details, which is to be expected, but when we turn to the 16 Pro, there is quite a bit of difference. The dynamic range is better with more visible clouds than the 16e, and the 16 Pro also has a larger sensor which makes the background more defocused, making both Haru Ugurtion pop out a bit more and also creates a better bokeh effect in the background. This is amplified when we switch to 2x crop, showing more background blur on the 16 Pro over the 16e. The 16 Pro also shoots ultra-wide photos which look great and aren't too far off the quality of the main sensor, and the same can be said of the 5x telephoto lens. Selfies on both phones look pretty much similar since Apple doesn't really change the selfie cameras on the iPhones that much. Video-wise, both phones can shoot at 4K 60, but the iPhone 16e does not have sensor shift stabilization, which does make the video footage not as steady as the 16 Pro. The 16e also does not have action mode or cinematic mode, which the 16 Pro has. Overall, the iPhone 16e's cameras are pretty far away from the iPhone 16 Pro. It's almost like buying a camera with only the kit lens, compared to buying a professional camera with 3 special lenses. It's clear that the 16e's cameras are no match to the 16 Pro, and is by far one of the biggest differences between the two phones. The 16e gets a B-, while the 16 Pro gets an A grade. The only other real difference between the two cameras is that the iPhone 16 Pro has a camera control button, which this case actually now supports because it doesn't have a cutout. Instead, it actually covers the camera control button but you still have full control. Let me tell you more about the ASR hybrid case. What's special about this case is that the camera control button is actually protected by tempered glass, which can withstand up to 30 kgs of point pressure, preventing scratches and shattering. On the case itself, it has a super strong magnetic lock up to 1500 grams of strength, along with a versatile camera guard and stand. The camera guard doubles as a stand, allowing use of MagSafe accessories while watching videos, gaming, or browsing. And it also has powerful drop protection with shock-absorbing air guard corners, a raised screen edge, and the camera guard provides 11-foot drop protection. Get your phone protected with the ESR HaloLock Classic Hybrid case. Check the link in my description. Okay, so it is now 3:04. Battery percentage on the 16 Pro is at 68%. The battery percentage on the 16e is at 77%. So, the iPhone 16e is pulling ahead of the 16 Pro by quite a big margin at this stage. But let's talk about the performance on both phones. So, both phones do run the A18 chipset. However, there is a bit of a difference in the GPU performance. The iPhone 16 Pro has 6 GPU cores, whereas the iPhone 16e has only got 4 GPU cores. So, in terms of the actual CPU performance and day-to-day multitasking, launching apps, they're both pretty much exactly the same, especially when they both come with 8GB of RAM. This means they can both do Apple Intelligence, and for day-to-day usage, both of them are pretty similar. I haven't really seen any glitches, lags, or stutters. However, I will note that the iPhone 16e does heat up a little bit faster than the 16 Pro. Now, the biggest difference when it comes to performance is definitely in the gaming. So the iPhone 16 Pro can play Genshin Impact at pretty much the highest graphics without too many issues. If you do put it in 120 FPS mode, it does overheat a little bit, but playing it on the highest graphics with 60 FPS is no issue. Whereas on the 16e, it's a bit of a different story. The iPhone 16e can play Genshin Impact at medium and high graphics at 30 FPS. If you do put it to 60, it does push it pretty hard and it overheats pretty quickly. It also does stutter a lot more when it comes to gaming, so if you are a gamer, the 16e is not the right one for you. So when it comes to general performance usage day to day, well, both of them are pretty similar. But if you are a heavy gamer, then you definitely want to go with the 16 Pro for that better performance. So the performance on the 16 Pro will get an A, whereas the iPhone 16e will get an A-. Alright, we're pretty much done at the university, so we're going to be heading down to the city. See you guys down there. Alright, let's check in with both phones. It is now currently 4:23. The battery percentage on the 16 Pro is at 62% and the iPhone 16e is at 74%. But let's talk about the software features and the design of both phones. Design-wise, both phones are very different, including the materials used. The iPhone 16 Pro definitely feels more premium and looks better as well, with a more modern finish with the slimmer bezels and the titanium enclosure. The iPhone 16e's design is a lot more basic, following the iPhone 14 with that aluminium and glass enclosure, and the two front glasses are different. The 16 Pro has the Ceramic Shield 2, whereas the 16e has the Ceramic Shield 1. And both phones also have IP68 water and dust resistance. So on the design side, the iPhone 16 Pro is definitely better. Now in terms of the actual features itself, both phones are pretty similar, but the iPhone 16 Pro does have USB 3.0, whereas the iPhone 16e only has USB 2.0. So if you're doing data transfer, the 16 Pro is definitely going to be faster. But in terms of the actual software, both are running iOS 18 and both do have Apple Intelligence, if that's useful to you. Overall, the iPhone 16 Pro has a more complete flagship feature set in terms of its design and also its features. It also has the camera control button, so that does allow you to do some pretty nifty things if that's useful to you, while the 16e is a lot more basic. So in terms of the features, the iPhone 16 Pro gets an A grade, while the 16e gets a B grade. Alright, time to catch the train and go home. Alright, so we've now reached the end of the day. It is now 10:42 and the battery percentage on the iPhone 16 Pro is at 41% and the iPhone 16e is at 57%. So let's take a look at the battery performances to see how both phones did throughout the day and to see which one did better. Taking a look at the screen times for both of these phones, the iPhone 16e had a slightly high screen on time of 3 hours and 30 minutes, whereas the iPhone 16 Pro had a screen active time of 3 hours and 4 minutes. But altogether, it's pretty close in terms of the extra screen usage, and as you can see, the iPhone 16e did a lot better than the iPhone 16 Pro. This is probably thanks to the new modem on the iPhone 16e, which is Apple's own developed modem, which does have better battery efficiency and also has a bigger battery capacity than the iPhone 16 Pro. So for the battery grading, the iPhone 16e gets an A+, whereas the iPhone 16 Pro gets an A grade. So let's wrap up my thoughts about both of these phones. So it really comes down to what you need. The iPhone 16e is a weird phone because it doesn't feel like a stripped down iPhone 16. In fact, it feels like an iPhone 13 with some iPhone 16 components, apart from the impressive battery life. Whereas the iPhone 16 Pro is definitely the full-fledged system, with incredible cameras, much better display technology, and overall just a better design and package altogether. The iPhone 16e just doesn't feel anywhere close to the iPhone 16 Pro or the 16 for that matter. So if all you care about is CPU performance and battery performance, the iPhone 16e will tick the boxes for you. But if you want cameras, better display, and a whole better package overall, the iPhone 16 Pro is a no-brainer. This is obviously comparing the top to the lowest model, but this is what you're missing. So that wraps up this video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm upwards, and I'll see you guys in the next video.